Hello, and welcome to the Wild Wild West podcast. My name is Richie Richey of the MHRT Network. Over to my right is the real Alex Gibbons of Arrowhead Addict. And down directly below here is Captain Jack Rackham of the Captain Jack Rackham YouTube channel.
Wait, before you go, like I said, I have to do this because whenever I get my hair did, I have to say, remember, what was her name on Frida, right? In Peanuts?
Please don't say
my naturally curly, so my naturally clean and awesome hair, so I just had to shout out to my my stylist. So there you go.
All right. Well, thank you, Shirley.
Looking good.
Thank you, Shirley Temple, for that particular announcement.
Well, you guys have seen this stylist. I did a show with. Remember the good-looking Latina with the yeah. So don't knock my stylist, man. She's awesome.
So we're gonna break down all of the Week 1 matchups across the AFC West. I am super excited for Week 1. I think there's some great games that we're going to be treated to this year. I also think there's going to be some really good tests for each of us coming up. Not to mention the fact that the Broncos and Raiders are playing each other, so it's a divisional game right off the hop, right? So, further ado, we'll go ahead and start kicking things off here. So we're going to start the show off with the Lions versus the Chiefs. And Alex, obviously, we're going to be looking to you for your feedback in terms of what our 3-point stance guest, the one and only Jeff Risen, you can catch him on the Lions Wire. He's also done a lot of team coverage. You catch him all over Twitter, all that sort of stuff. Please go ahead and catch him there. Over on the Wild Wild West Twitter or X, we went ahead and threw Jeff's information up, so you can go ahead and follow and see what he has to say. And without further ado, that is one big chain.
Kirko.
Dude,
Kirko be tripping.
Dude, I'm gonna pull on Aqib Talib. I'm not gonna lie. But anyways,
my dead body.
Yeah. With that in mind, let's throw over to Jeff and hear what he has to say about the matchup and the 3 things that the Detroit Lions need to do to beat Alex, your Chiefs.
All right. What do the Detroit Lions have to do to beat the Kansas City Chiefs? Biggest thing in the 8-2 run down the stretch at the end of last year was they took care of the ball on offense. Jared Goff has gone 324 straight passes without an interception. It'd be great if he could get it up to about 370 this week and make it another one. It's tough to predict a clean game like that. He did a great job, but I tell you what, the way that he is in control of Ben Johnson, the offensive coordinator, his offense, picking the right options, making the right reads, having things designed for him and laid out for him where he can find consistently the best option. Jared Goff can do that really well. And without Chris Jones coming up the gut to get after him, and the rest of the line, the Lions' offensive line is one of the best in the league, especially in pass protection. There's going to be a chance to survey the field and attack. And if he avoids the mistakes and gets a little bit of luck with, he did have 3 interceptions dropped last year. He can do a lot of good here. There are some points to be had against this defense, and they're going to need to take advantage of those. Then on defense, we don't know what's up with Travis Kelce. It sounds like he might not play, maybe isn't going to play with a hyperextended knee. I know if I had a hyperextended knee, I would sit out. That's my advice to you, Kelce. Sit out. Do it. Just give yourself an extra week to rest. You don't need to stress that in the first week because you're really dang good. 110 catches. The Lions won't miss having to guard him because he's a problem for everybody. I think the biggest thing is to their Kansas City. Look, Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. He's an MVP. He's a likely Hall of Famer. He's a fantastic player. You got to understand that he's going to get some good plays against you. The key for me and for the Lions is don't let that multiply. Don't let him get on a roll like that. Put the bad plays that he gets where he beats you, put those behind you and go out and stop the next one. You can't go on living the last play, the one where he beat you up. You got to go out there and make the next stop. And they have a much improved defense. I think the nation is going to see what C.J. Gardner-Johnson brings to the Lions defense. He brings an attitude and edge. It's a much needed thing. He brings swagger to the defense, the one that hasn't had it since Darius Slay was traded away. And it's been infectious. He told us in the media, I'm infectious like the flu. And he meant it in a good way. And you can see it in guys like Kirby Joseph and Jerry Jacobs and Derek Barnes and James Houston. Like, they have this a little bit of swagger, which is kind of weird for a defense that gave up more yards than any other team in the league last year. They quietly played better down the stretch other than the Carolina game. And I think that they have with Kelsey out, they have a decent chance of matching up and not letting the Chiefs outscore them. And that doesn't mean stopping them and shutting them down, but it does mean containing them. And I think that's the big key, because I think the combination of the Lions offense being effective and relatively mistake-free, being balanced with the run game, balanced with the pass game, not making mistakes, they can outscore what Mahomes and the Chiefs offense without Kelsey, I'm going to assume that he's not going to play, what they can do to the Lions defense. That's the hope anyways. It's going to be difficult. Obviously, Kansas City, home team, they're very good. They're the defending Super Bowl champs. All credit deserved to that. And the line says that the Chiefs are, I think it's 6-point favorites. They deserve that. But the Lions they're not going to be a pushover in this game. Again, I'm Jeff Risdon with Lions Wire. You can find me at LionsWire at usatoday.com. You can find me on X, formerly Twitter, at Jeff Risdon, Risdon. And thanks for tuning in.
Boom.
I
gotta say, baller move with the full roof.
Oh, yeah.
Glass.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, damn. Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So, Alex, I'm going to throw over to you and just kind of let you run with what you just heard. Give some feedback there to those joining us, and let's get right into it.
Yeah, so it's kind of funny because kind of what he said was pretty much what I sort of developed as the Chiefs, keys to victory with the added components of who's not going to be there. Obviously, no Chris Jones. That just seems to be a compounding story in and of itself. But then, Tuesday, right after I had, one of my fantasy drafts, literally that next morning, find out that pretty much wide receiver, tight end one, Travis Kelce, hyperextended his knee. There's no serious concern with it, but, I'd say it's pretty likely that he's not going to play this week, the Chiefs insider Jason Kelce made it kind of sound like in his report that he's going to try to, but it's September, it's week 1. I imagine they err to the side of caution, and if he does play, it'll be a pretty limited capacity. But that could still mean one touchdown. Who knows? But yeah, pretty much have to prepare with no Kelce, so obviously changes the landscape of the Chiefs offense and probably how formidable they would look to Detroit. So, first thing, I completely agreed with what he said. It's going to be a scoring affair. I kind of imagine it's going to be somewhat closer to like the Goff Mahomes showdown when he was in LA. Just not a whole lot of it's going to be a Big 12 game, not a whole lot of defense and touchdowns and points just flying. But I think that's going to have to be what needs to happen because Detroit's not a bad offense. He gave you some stats. I mean, they definitely turned in well down the stretch, and Goff's somewhat was sit there to be a cast off and has played himself into significant extension talks. So I mean they certainly are a decent high quality unit, and he said it right there. The offensive line I think they gave up 24 sacks last year, so was second least in the NFL, which is like, you wouldn't think Detroit and think that they have a good unit like that. But I mean, for as much as we talk about Chargers and Chiefs and Eagles offensive lines, I mean, they're right up there with it. So
even Browns, even the Browns,
yeah,
Browns,
yeah. I mean, I say all that to get my point in that that's not a good thing you want to hear when Chris Jones isn't there and Minihue, the biggest offseason acquisition, is on a suspension. So, they're certainly going to be lacking for their natural sources of pressure to the QB. So, in terms of the biggest keys for KC, first one I said they can't have what they kind of did in the preseason and have these lull drives that quick 3 and outs and move on. They're going to have to. I mean, it's a John Madden-esque key to the victory here, but they're going to have to get points every drive, because I don't think that they got a really good chance to win unless they do. But secondly, kind of carried over from the preseason as well, I'm going to have to see a lot of what Spags is doing with Tranquil and Chamari Connor, and give these unique looks and unique kind of nickel packages that he blitzes out of to create some pressure and get after Goff, because I think Goff is a type of player that can make mistakes if he's pressured. But I mean, as you heard from the stats that I shared and Jeff shared, their offensive line doesn't let him get pressured too much. So, I think that's the huge key on the defense. Good news is everyone else is back. That is, was somewhat questionable. So you got a fully healthy secondary and fully healthy linebacker unit. So I think we're going to have to lean more on that to create pressure. It'll be at least excited in week 1 to see how they use Tranquil and these new guys they brought in, probably with the mindset of creating pressure outside of Chris Jones. So, those are 2 biggest ones. And then in terms of offense, assuming, Kelsey is not going to be there, and from what I've seen too, it looks like pretty likely that Kadarius Toney is going to be in a somewhat limited capacity too, because I imagine, I feel like if you breathe on him, he could be out for 6 weeks. So, I imagine they kind of keep it light with him too. So with that in mind, I mean, you're going to have someone who's not really a proven commodity in any way step up. I'm looking at, Sky Moore, second-year guy, Scantling, or Noah Gray, who's been in the system for a while, and they always kind of keep around. So, I mean, one of those guys who, definitely not expected to do anything is going to have to step it up somewhere to keep the pace of play going and put them in a position to win at the end. Because, I mean, Detroit's obviously a team on the rise. Everyone's hyping them up. It's the Super Bowl banner unveiling. So first game of the season, it's gonna be a high flying matchup. So but that's what Casey's gonna have to do to win this game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and
so let me get this straight. Kadarius Toney is injured.
No,
wait, one more time.
He was. He's not injured. He was, though.
He was injured. Okay. But 2 words that normally go together, Toney and injury.
He's been out most preseason. I don't think he's really – I think this week was his first time participating in anything in a while. So, but, I mean, I say that because then I imagine with it being week 1, he's not getting 15 targets. I mean, but you got to think that there's no Kelsey out there. That's 20 targets a game that got to go somewhere else. So, we'll see. But I will say, if Mahomes wins this game in a nice fashion, I think I don't really think you can hate on him in any other way. So,
they'll find a way. Trust me.
I know, but
they'll find a way.
Coach, just your thoughts on this game before we kind of start moving on to the Broncos Raiders.
We actually talked about this in depth on my show last night. We aren't on the belief side of that the Lions can win just yet. At this point, based upon what the Chiefs did last year, Sons, Tyreek Hill, and other things moving around, a lot of rookies on defense, and he still managed to make it to the dance and win. I'm not betting on the Lions to supplant them, even with Kelsey and Chris Jones being out. I think that you've got Andy months to prepare versus a week. I'm sure you have some slick little tricks up his sleeve to kind of keep the Lions off base. Right. So I'm sure he'll have some tricks up his sleeves to kind of keep the Lions off balance. Now, I will say this: the Lions defense is going to be much better this year. Based on the acquisitions that they made in the offseason, I think the Lions defense is going to be much better this year. The pass rush is going to be ratcheted up. I think the secondary is better. I think Jack Campbell's an absolute stud.
Beast.
Brian Branch, I think they're going to be much better. So I'm going to pay attention to them keeping it close. But if I had to bet money on who's going to win the game, definitely the Chiefs. In the fourth quarter, I think they outlast them in the fourth quarter. If I had to guess, but I'm not betting the spread at all. The spread is a trick bag this week.
6.5, isn't it?
Yeah, the spread is a trick bag this week. I'm not doing it, but flat out victory, I'm definitely giving this to the Chiefs so far.
What's the spread? What's Kansas City favored
It's down
by?
to 4.5. It's down to 4.5. It was 6. No, it was 4. It's down to 4.5 for Kelsey.
Yeah, it moved.
It moved. Yeah, it was 6.5. It was 6.5 before Kelsey, but after that, we're down to 4.5.
I was gonna say if you could have picked that one up at 6.5 and bet it then.
I'd have bet the Lions on 6.5. Definitely.
Oh hell yeah, man.
Yeah. But I think they definitely keep it. It'll be a good game.
Stacked.
It'll be a good game.
Defense is stacked. I did find it interesting that he called Gardner Johnson infectious, being his fourth team in 4 years. So
how about that? He's been productive on those 4 teams, though.
I mean,
let's be honest.
No one wants to pay him.
Yeah, that's true. I know, right? You treat him like a running back.
Yeah.
And I know the one thing that I think the Chiefs you have going for you is you have a fairly solid offensive line that has largely stayed together. And so, despite the fact,
that a good pickup.
Yeah. So despite the fact that you have your top defender and your top offensive weapon, both one for sure not playing and one likely not playing, I think that this is probably the game where the Chiefs likely lose. And I simply just think that there's going to be too much to overcome, in my opinion, in the first game. I think the Lions are coming to try to prove themselves, and I think that it's going to be extremely difficult with an offensive line. This is the thing that you guys typically don't face. You typically don't face an opposing offensive line who's really good without Chris Jones. Chris Jones is elite by any measure.
Well, I think arguably Chris Jones could make any offensive line pretty bad.
Yeah. No, that's what I mean. Yeah, that's exactly what I mean, right? Which is, like, you gotta.
I'm just hoping the phone call happens at like midnight tonight.
Yeah.
Right. Kind of like they did with Nick Bosa.
He's back.
Right.
Yeah.
But
yeah. See, they got Nick Bosa's deal done. Why not Chris Jones?
Yeah. Ironically, with Nick Bosa, not to get off track, but I mean, literally yesterday they were like talking about how they're miles apart and like nothing's gonna happen. So,
less than 24 hours. Yeah, it's possible.
That's all I can hang my hat on now. But I mean, it's gonna be a tough It's gonna be a tough game for KC. I'm not denying that.
Even with let's just go all the way in and assume everything happens. Let's say you get Chris Jones back on a mega deal, and let's say Kelsey, hobbled as he is able to try to get out there. That is a bad business decision for your team to put Kelsey out there when he's hurt like that. That's just silly. Even if he is an old school tight end, Big E Bronco, that is literally your best offensive weapon. You don't blow your season.
You don't blow your season off on the first game. You let it rest. And even if it is 3 weeks, that's 14 games that you're going to have him theoretically healthy for. Okay.
Right.
No, you don't get him out there.
Right.
And when he's gimpy, because if it's a sprained,
I'll tell you right now, Kelsey's not playing. I mean,
I think we all silently can agree that he's not playing.
the latest thing said it was a bone bruise, but but he's not playing. It's week.
I got a bone bruise right here. Okay, yeah, I got a bone bruise.
But either way, the point being here is even if you guys had all of your guys back, the Lions have one heck of a defensive front.
Yeah.
I mean, it is on fire in terms of the guys that they have there. And you also have to remember, most of their guys are now year 2 and 3. They've only just added an additional extra dude in year 1. Most of their other guys are in that sweet spot of those NFL defensive players where they really normally start taking those steps forward. And the one thing you can't say about the Lions is they have a coach that really riles them up. He's kind of got that. He kind of puts the extra fire in them.
They will run through a brick wall for Dan Campbell.
Yes, I know.
That's a fact.
Yeah,
that's a fact. They'll run through a brick wall for Campbell. I might too if I listen too long. I'm like, where's my helmet? Let's go. I got 2 snaps left in me.
Hey, Biggie, if you haven't seen me by now, and if you don't see what the hell that I bring to the game when I go to the games. And then you're talking about and I'm going to say it. I'm going to give the old Jerry Seinfeld. Not that there's anything wrong with that, as far as for stuff about Homo sapiens, not sapiens. Okay, you're sincerely effed up. Okay,
where's this going?
That Biggie Bronco thinks that I'm gay.
Where did he say that at?
Right.
Biggie Bronco thinks I'm gay because of a conversation a couple weeks ago. He says that I was talking about taking it, doing a bunch of up the kazoo, and I'm like, no, it's called me pounding a.
You need to get off of that ladder you're reaching from there.
Yeah.
I
haven't seen that.
No, you go back. You said, yeah. You're talking about me taking it up the ass and stuff like that. So you know what, Biggie Bronco?
I think I did.
Right.
I think I do remember that, but
Thank
I don't think
you.
can say that right now.
Yeah.
Anyways,
no, I'm not gay.
Anyways, we're gonna go ahead and back out of that certain situation. And
no pun intended. No pun intended. No pun intended. No, I'm not a part of that.
Yeah, and we're gonna spin things around and actually talk about football.
Week 1's got people going wild places.
Really?
Hey, I'm in
ASAP.
I'm in mid-season form. I'm in mid-season form, man. Trust me.
We need football ASAP, expeditiously.
So, anyways, Alex, the point being is I actually think that this could be that one game, even just simply because of the certain circumstances and whatnot. Now, am I saying that the Chiefs are going to spiral this year? No. I'm just saying I think this could be that one game where you could get caught because I think the Lions can be that team.
I think so too.
I think they can.
And that's not hate. That's not hate.
Yeah.
I just think that when you put all of those things, when you put all of the things together about Kelsey having an injury that you don't want to throw him in there, Tony missing a lot of the preseason, Jones being out, and it's the earliest game, and there's a lot of hype, and everybody is just it's just saying all those things. I'm not saying that they're gonna lose. I'm just saying if they could lose, this would be the game because of X, Y, and Z.
Yeah, I mean they lost to the Colts last year, so
Yes, they did.
It's entirely possible, and they look like garbage against the Colts.
Yeah.
So,
right.
You know what I find funny about
that's what I find funny about the Chiefs, though. They don't lose the games you expect. Like, this game is set up for them to lose, to everybody's point. But they don't lose those games. They lose the games that you just know everybody's healthy, nothing's wrong, and just some weird-ass Sunday where they just happen to not be on their game and they lose one game to the Colts, ironically, right? But everybody knows that their backs against the wall. No Kelsey, no Jones, rolling out the banners. It's Super Bowl ring night and all that good jazz. It's all a fanfare. It's like, oh, they're going to lose. They're going to be distracted. They got a Super Bowl hangover, and they come out and put up 40.
Right.
My fourth key to the game, though, is we're going to have to slide a little extra cheddar cheese to the refs. So, yeah.
Right.
I figured that call was coming, so I just get out in front of that.
Well, Alex, they always say that to get over doing something wrong, it's important that you admit it first. And then now that you've admitted it, you now have the ability to then put it behind you and then do better. So good for you for admitting it. Anyways, guys, I tend to agree with our
Big
general.
Smug hug. Big smug hug for you there.
Big smug hug.
Yeah. So I tend to agree with everyone's take there on the game. I think this can be a really interesting one. This is definitely one that I intend to watch. And
I will definitely watch it.
The script is firing off.
It's the only game on. It's the only game on. I mean, what else you got to do?
It's on NBC too. No Amazon.
Right. No Peacock. I mean, with Peacock, NBC, no Amazon. So yeah.
I'll say the script is early this year.
No, I won't be watching it.
You don't have
NBC?
No, I got NBC, DirecTV, and the NBC. They're doing one of those things where, like last year, the year before that, it was the CBS affiliate, whatever they were with. They had a contract dispute, so and it's Nexstar, yeah, whatever that big conglomeration of things. No, it's DirecTV.
Cable, DirecTV, same deals. Cut the cord. That's what they say. Cut the cord.
Well, I can watch.
I gotta check it in the savings.
I can watch it. I just have to put my small screen up and get the rabbit ears out, like they did in the old school until they
Peacock app.
Right.
I already have Paramount.
You forgot who you're talking to. You forgot about technology. You forgot who you're talking to.
True.
Oh, screw you!
It's right across my TV.
We're gonna move on to the Raiders.
Yeah, you better move on right here. Right here, folks. Right here.
We're gonna move on to the Raiders game. And for that, Captain, we have another Raiders fan here to come in alongside you.
Who's more analytically inclined, I'm sure, right?
Sure. And T3, Mr. Tom Jones, to add his Raiders insight for the Broncos Raiders game. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Good evening, everybody. And what the hell did I just walk into?
We don't know.
Well, I'm actually hoping that you can bring us,
we're
a little
football,
back to center,
sort of.
if you will.
Okay. Well,
so
let me piggyback on the discussion that you just had a second ago, and Alex, this is probably not going to be a surprise to you, but I definitely see Kansas City winning the game against Detroit. Detroit could hit them with a punch early in the game and kind of get their attention, but and typically this is a game that I could say that Kansas City could lose early. If you're going to beat Kansas City, beating them earlier in the year is much easier than once they hit their stride. Now, having said all that, I think that the Lions can keep things close in the first quarter. Maybe even in the first half. But as things go along, I think that there's just going to be too much energy in the building. I think Kansas City is going to probably end up with either some garbage points at the end or whatever that's going to make that line. So I would take it even at 4. Certainly would take it at 6, but I would certainly take that line at 4. And actually, I see the Chiefs winning somewhere along the neighborhood of 30-20. Because in games that Patrick Mahomes has started, they have averaged 26 points a game. So
he's also never lost opening game. It's 5-0.
I just think they've got too much in the tank on opening night, defending their championship to come out flat. I think Detroit could come out on fire, but I think that's going to get negated. So I see it somewhere around the neighborhood of 30-20 Chiefs.
I'm cool with that as long as Jahmyr Gibbs has 2 touchdowns and like 150 yards.
Okay, fantasy guy.
Not need to go anywhere else with that, but yeah. No, I mean, I guess 31-21. So I mean,
I actually picture a high-scoring game. I just think the Chiefs will end up outlasting the Lions. If you put it down to coaching, I think coaching it might supersede everything and realize that's who's going to win the game. Whoever gets out coached at the end, that might be what the difference maker.
Detroit's going to come out with a lot of energy, though.
They should. They're young. They're hungry. Like I said, Dan Campbell got them, biting ankles and chewing kneecaps, and so.
And
they're the pros,
Detroit's secondary has played better, but number one, that was preseason, and then off the heels of that, Kansas City just poses a whole different set of challenges.
Yeah,
agreed. So moving over to the Raiders and Broncos, obviously there's been some additional Raiders news that has come out over the course of this week, and it's always an interesting game. You've brought back Jacobs, who has now signed that extension. He has been a pivotal player when you played the Broncos. Dare I say, game wrecker in the Broncos games, generally speaking. What are your thoughts on that game, and what do you expect to see?
Jack, you want to go first, or you want me to take that?
Go ahead and do the analytical stuff, because I know you got a shit ton of good numbers and whatnot, and I will address the elephant in the room by that slanderous comment that was alluded to by Richie Riche. I'll take that one. You do the stats.
Okay, I've got a comment on that as well, but I'll hold off on that until later. As far as Josh Jacobs is concerned, he never was not coming back. I think all the social media posts that were in there, he's a smart guy. He's not going to turn down $10.1 million. And he certainly had no real incentive to come back during the preseason. So now he's in, everybody's happy. But again, I don't think he's going to get nearly the workload that he got under the Gruden system or even the early McDaniel system when they really had to put the team on his back. I see Jacobs getting somewhere around the neighborhood of 15 carries, Jameer White maybe around the neighborhood of 10 carries. Now, I could be wrong, and Josh Jacobs is one of those guys who, once he gets going and he gets stronger as the game goes along, it could very well be that if they start hitting their stride, they could start loading him up. I don't see that happen, though. I don't see that happen. I think that this particular offense is going to be more predicated toward Jimmy G getting rid of the ball quickly. I think he's going to utilize his back some more. I am going to ignore Big E Broncos comment here and just keep right on going, just like I ignore a lot of the things on social media. We'll just keep it on going here. Much respect to you, Big E, but let me just keep it on going here. I think that Jimmy G is going to get the ball out quickly. I think Devontae Adams, even though that matchup with Patrick Surtain is going to be epic, I think he's still going to end up with a couple of big catches. I wouldn't be surprised to see him end up with one, maybe two touchdowns. And again, that's early in the season. All things are starting to get their stride. Russell Wilson, I don't think he's going to have the bounce back year that everybody thinks. But I also don't think that the Raider defense is going to collapse on him like they need to. I think that may be kind of a stalemate, but it's going to be very interesting to see how this game pans out. I know that the early line had the Broncos anywhere from 3 to 4 point favorites. I have to side with the Raiders on this simply for two reasons. Number one, I don't think that Sean Payton is going to turn it around quickly. I think it's going to take him a while to mesh things with Russell Wilson and the whole team. I think the Raiders are going to come out fired up coming into Denver. They've got that 6-game winning streak against the Broncos to protect. I think they could come out on fire. I think they could come out with verily mistake-free football. I could be wrong, but I think they're going to come out with a clean game and come up with somewhere to a 7 to 10 point victory.
Interesting.
I know that too, Rich. You say interesting, then you pause.
Now, I mean this with all due respect.
Exactly.
No,
or you could come out with the not so fast, my friend.
No. So, I mean, I made a mistake. I'm not a huge fan with some of the changes we made in the offseason after seeing how they played out in preseason. I've said from the get-go, that I believe that I thought actually that Ben Powers was going to be the easier of the two linemen to transition over to the scheme. I'm not so sure that's the case after I've seen what he did in preseason and the fact that he didn't do some of the things that I expected to see of him. And so where I'm going with that is you have this guy named Max Crosby on your team. I'm sure you're familiar with him. He's kind of in that like top 2 to 3 pass rusher at this stage in the NFL. I expect that he's just going to absolutely go to town. And I think that he'll get pressure on Wilson. He'll certainly get a sack, at least in my opinion. And I'd be very, very surprised if he wasn't a huge difference maker against an offensive line that did not show up as I would have wanted them to in the preseason. And they didn't progress like I would have liked to have seen them in the preseason, despite the fact that they played a fair amount. The starters did. So I agree with that. Where you kind of lose me a little bit is the fact that you think that there's going to be an epic matchup, and then you're saying that there's 2 touchdowns for your wide receiver, not even knocking the fact that he's not a fantastic wide receiver. I just don't think that history kind of bears that out when those two have matched up against one another in the past. I actually think that you're going to see Surtain likely do his job and probably either blank Devontae or Devontae will get a touchdown when they start moving him around the field to play against somebody else. So whether or not they move him so that, maybe he goes against another defensive back if they start getting into zone. But I think you're not going to start – I don't think you're going to start getting Devontae going until he's off of Surtain, unless Surtain has an off game, which is also possible. But I think that that's really the only time where you start seeing kind of that matchup break or fall down. I think it would be a mistake for the Raiders to approach this game the way that you said with your 2 running backs. If you do, I actually think it'll be a recipe for losing. I believe that you need to feed Josh Jacobs early and often. You need to use that to allow Jimmy G to get his legs under him and get back into the swing of being the starting quarterback and kind of knock the rust off for his first game back playing. And I think you need to ride who has typically been a hot hand and who runs like a prototypical bell cow running back. He doesn't do really well in the first couple rushes, but then as that game goes on and as you feed him the ball more and more, he just starts breaking off, 5, 10, 20, 30-yard runs sometimes. He's a rather remarkable running back and deserves all the credit in the world for the success he's had. And moreover, he has had a storied success or at least a measured success specifically against the Broncos. Again, specifically against the Broncos. Try that with another team. Just don't mess up what's already worked. It makes no sense. So I do think that the Raiders are likely going to win this game. In fact, the 5280 podcast on MHRT Network yesterday did the whole season breakdown in terms of where they thought our season was going to go for the Denver Broncos. I had us on that show in the comments losing the Raiders game coming up this Sunday. So I don't disagree with the outcome. I just disagree with the path you took to get there.
What was it that Al Davis said? Wait, why thank you for the segue there, Smug. Because I was going to address that, and see that's one of the things that kind of pisses me off. Even with and I didn't see him on here tonight, but I get Jack Kenna who blows up my phone about, and he goes right back to calling McDaniels McShitnuts, which pisses me off. Okay. And I told him he can't do it on my show because, again, I don't care what your thoughts are, but you're not going to call my coach McShitnuts. And Jack Kenna, F you too. I'm going to keep it at the SHIT level, with all due respect. Okay. And then I get Gabe, the Giants fan, who comes at me like, this is one of your guys? And I'm like, I said, first off, okay, if we're going to go historical back, yeah, DZ has got it right. A Raiders fan, this is expected. Normally it's a little bit earlier in the preseason for this crap to happen with, people freezing their feet and cryogenic bullshit, taking balloons down and then, doing a happy dance. And, and by the way, FUAB. Okay. So I did it all in letters. The activity that deals with Chandler Jones, okay, and I think it was handled very, very well and appropriately by Coach McDaniels. He said that there are things that are going on and they are handling it in-house, and they didn't say anything because I honestly think it is a medical issue. And the reason why I say that is that Chandler Jones a couple of years ago had an incident in New England where he basically, I don't know how else to say it, weirded out and went to a police station, and he was, had his one shirt was off, and he went to the police station. He put his hands behind his back, like, then he went to a praying position, and the cops went over to his house, and the cops said that they smelled something that was reminiscent of marijuana. And it turned out, from what I understand, that it was some bad synthetic dope that Chandler had been smoking. And this was at the time where you couldn't smoke regular marijuana before they changed the clauses with different things. And I'm just saying, like, the way that it was handled and the way that it was stated by McDaniels, not alluding to different things, I firmly believe, and until proven otherwise, that there are issues, psychological or physical, or things that have gone on with Chandler Jones this offseason that is affecting him. And he had a rant, and he blew up, and that the Raiders were trying to keep things hush, because remember, that is a privacy issue. That is a what do you call it? A medical
violation, baby. HIPAA violation.
Thank you. Right. And they don't want to do anything that can preclude them being sued for a HIPAA violation. They're keeping things in house. And again, as an intelligence professional, I will say this, and this is often true. First reports are often wrong. You get some intelligence on the battlefield or on a carrier, and and in the fog of war, first reports are often wrong because they're trying to get information out, and they're feeding you, and there's a bunch of different things, and your alert senses are up. So the things that you hear at first normally are not what's going on. So I firmly believe, like Kelsey being out until I hear otherwise, I think that Chandler is going to be out for this game. And this might be Chandler's last year anyway, considering what his contract is, and they haven't gotten a lot of production out of him, and that they are handling things correctly by not diming his ass out or making things that would be able for him and his lawyers to go after the Raiders. So what is going on? I do not know. Just my thoughts. But I think that there are things that are going on that we don't know about, and it needs to be quashed or taken care of in-house. So for all those people saying it's another AB incident, it's another what was the guy that we got from the 49ers that went to the Cowboys and went off his rocker and had a gun at the at an airport, 99. I can't remember his name. But again, there's things going on. And like I said, for all those people that are laughing at the Raider organization, because it's always an easy thing to typical Raiders. Again, you don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on, but I can make an educated guess. So for all those that are just wishing all the bad juju. And again, sorry, long-winded. I didn't check the. If you're talking to me in private chat, I'm sorry, guys, I didn't see it. Yeah, okay, I will, Rich. That's what all I have to say.
I'm not gonna lie, that angle on the circumstance is one that I haven't heard from anyone else.
Yeah.
And
I
I'll
haven't
be
really
honest.
looked into it. I just saw the screenshots and
Yeah,
which
no.
is-
It's everyone
But it all
else.
makes sense.
You know, it does, but everyone else has gone down the path of, like, I've heard, well, he went and did this before back in New England, blah blah blah, but no one went down like the route of whether it be a mental break or any of those sorts of things. Basically, sitting there saying, let's not only look at this from, or they've gone down the route of saying it's McDaniels. What do you expect? And so I think that's a really, really interesting take of saying this could well have been a player that was in either a moment of weakness and or had a either mental issue or perhaps an incident again where he needs the Stephen A. Smith soundbite to be played for him again.
Let me jump in.
The weed.
And some guys simply just don't handle that well, and that could be a reason for it. And I think that's something that's really important, for that there are other options, not just the ones we've heard from most people.
Let me jump in with just a little bit more insight. And again, I'm not going to throw Chandler Jones under the bus. Mick Ziegler, the combination, they swung for the fence to bring him in, and he came in and did not live up to his contract. And of course, when he came in for year two, one of the main reasons why he was still on the roster is because of the cap hit that would result if he was not on the team. That's one issue. That's one aspect of it, but not the only aspect. Selecting Tyree Wilson in the first round obviously would signal his exit eventually after the coming year. But again, throughout this entire off season and spring and summer camps, the absence of Chandler Jones has been very, very tight-lipped. You haven't heard the Raiders organization say very much about the fact that he's not been attending practices or he's not been in the building. Some people have been asking questions, and they continue to say, well, he's not here, and that's all they've been saying. So they haven't been adding fuel to the fire of anything at all. So you got to credit the Raiders organization for keeping tight-lipped on that, and anything that's personal between the player and anything he may have to deal with, they've kept that on the lowdown. Now, the rant that he went on social media, that's been taken down since then, and they haven't said anything. The Raiders haven't said anything. I don't think that you'll see him anywhere around in week one, and I'm not sure about week two. Now, the thing is, if this is a personal issue, which I believe it may be, I hope that he gets the help that he needs, whatever help, way, shape, or form that may be. I'm thinking now about Chandler Jones, the person, much like I was thinking about Richard Sherman, the person, when he was going through all of his issues. Not very dissimilar. Now, again, I hope that Chandler Jones gets the help that he needs. But here's what I would tell Raider fans. If you were counting on the fact that Chandler Jones, having not played in the entire preseason or in camp, was going to come in and make an impact in week one, you're sadly mistaken.
You're smoking that spice.
But again, by the same token, if you're a Raiders fan who thinks that a guy like Chandler Jones, who has not been at training camp, who has not been at practice, is going to be a distraction to the other 52 guys on the team, you're also mistaken. So that's my take on that.
Yeah, I think that's fair. The other thing that I think that in this game that does have the potential to change things from, we'll call it weeks past, is Jaleel McLaughlin, the running back, who's currently RB3, but I think you're going to see him largely used in like an RB2-esque role as the season progresses. He brings just a different dynamic that the Broncos haven't had on our roster for a good number of years. He is I'd say from a playing perspective, closer to like a No-Sean Moreno, where he's got that size, but he's also got the speed and the ability to catch the ball. Now, he hasn't fumbled the ball a ton, so we'll hope that he doesn't exhibit those early signs from No-Sean when he gets into, regular season games. But we saw a lot of patience, vision, caught the key passes, made the key runs, all those sorts of things. And I think that he could be a bit of a difference maker. And, if the right plays get broken off, could be something that either pushes the Broncos over the top or could be something that at least keeps the game closer than it really ought to be, depending on how the offense/defense is, assuming that T3, some of the comments about Russell Wilson that you said earlier are at least modestly true for this season.
Well, Rich, I'll tell you what concerns me more than that is the performance of Javonte Williams. Now, if the Raiders don't tackle any better than they did in the third week of the preseason, which was just dreadful, and again, I will admit that there were quite a few guys on the field who were not on the roster, but their defense played much better in games 1 and 2. But if Denver can find a way to have the Raiders tackle the way they have consistently tackled over the last couple of years, you could see them feeding the ball to Javonte more and keeping the Raiders offense off the field. I think that benefits Denver in lots of different ways. It also keeps the crowd in the game as well.
No, Pirine is your concern, I think, because he's the guy that's going to grind you down. Williams is still in the early stages of returning, and I think he's going to be on a 15 or 10, like maybe a 5 or 10 pitch count at best.
Yeah, he's on a pitch count. And tell you, Michael Pirine, I loved when he was wearing orange and blue on Saturdays. I'm going to hate when he's wearing. No, it's LaMichael. Yeah, it's LaMichael Pirine. No?
Samanje.
Michael's on the Chiefs.
Oh, no, that's right. You guys, I apologize. Yes, I knew that I saw him in the preseason.
I think Samanje wore that burgundy in Oklahoma.
Yeah. LaMichael, who's on the Queefs, he is scary as a running back. Yeah, well, I said
there on the way.
Well, I mean, we got. I haven't done you in a while. But but Samanje is actually a very good, very good running back as well. But I tell you, LaMichael with the Chiefs is a lot better back.
No, the Pirine that's on the Broncos is a big bruising style running back. He's a guy that is going to take
on the Bengals.
Yeah, he was with the Bengals. He's a guy that's going to take 2 defensive players, and I mean, like defensive end type players to bring down.
Yeah.
And so that's going to be a trick. And in my opinion, Tom, your major concern should be Pirine wearing the defense down, but then you get the dose of your McLaughlin there coming in and kind of catching you and kind of stuff.
And that's fair, but the bottom line is the Raiders defense has to perform well against the run, regardless of who's toting the rock.
Yeah. You got a Raiders question, and maybe I saw today the news they freed up a bunch of cap space with Jimmy G. It was like 13, 14 mil or something. Is there some pending move going on?
No, I just think that they needed, from what prior to that, there were reports that we were like $7 million over, and now we are $10 million under. So it was the accounting, and people automatically had that tied to the Chandler Jones thing with if they did or did not, it did alleviate some cap space. So now that, and I'm sure T3 can attest this. So now we have $10 million in cap space as of right now. Whether it dealt with Chandler Jones or not, we still needed the space. Tom, go ahead, sir.
Well, what I was going to say is what we've been looking at kind of during the off season is the acquisition of a real game changer at the linebacking spot. And the guy that kept popping up on our radar was a guy by the name of Patrick Queen. Now, again, with that extra money freed up, there's a possibility that maybe there could be a trade in the works or something that we could come in and bring a guy like that in, because again, you've got to shore up that linebacking core. He's a guy with speed and a guy who I think would fit in well with that system. Now, it could be Queen, it could be somebody else, but I do see the Raiders making a move somewhere along the line early in the season to bring in a linebacker, somebody who can really have an impact on that defense.
That'll be interesting. So, Alex and Coach, your thoughts. Alex, we'll start with you, and Coach, over to you. Broncos, Raiders, thoughts on the comments thus far on the game, and what do you think what do you expect to see?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know, because I feel like it's kind of both teams are coming in with, like obviously Denver got Peyton, supposed to have a revitalized Russell. Definitely going to be a different offensive scheme and approach overall. I feel like same with Vegas, McDaniels finally got the guys in that I'm sure he feels and trusts to run this Amelia Earhart system the way he wants to. So
I got it.
Yeah, we had to bring it back. But I think with that, I think that on top of being a historic AFC West division matchup in Week 1, I think has the makings for a pretty entertaining game because I think at least in terms of scoring, I think that points are going to be put up, and I think I kind of tend to agree with Tom in that I think the key to the Raiders winning is if their defense, if they are able to tackle better than they did in years past. Because we obviously know Denver has a good defense, and I'm sure Vegas will put up points, but I think for the most part they'll find ways to keep them out of the end zone, and it's going to come down to can the Raiders turn around and do the same to Denver on what was a pretty bad offense last year, but there's kind of that unknown component to it because you just don't know. You don't know what Peyton's going to scheme up, and I find it hard to believe that someone with his prowess as a play caller doesn't have some sort of game plan or at least initial script to counteract the fact that they have a pretty bad offensive line and things like that. So I'm curious to see how he kind of puts Flex Seal on those things, to move the ball. So I think overall it's going to be a good game. I would think that the Raiders would win just because I gotta see Russell and Denver, prove it to put any stock and faith in them. But I do think that Russell will come around. I don't think it's going to be as drastic as people probably expect it to be. And I don't think it's going to be a night and day difference. I think it's going to come on as the season goes on. And I think as Javonte gets healthier, not to mention Judy comes back. Because that's kind of I feel like an unspoken thing. Like I feel like doesn't Denver have like three healthy wide receivers right now? So, and one being Mims. A rookie. And Sutton's not a very overly healthy guy. So, but those are all things that, like I said, I think that Denver is going to be improved. I think their offense is going to be drastically improved from last year. But I don't think that's happening Week 1.
Yeah, no, I think those are all fair.
Yeah, I was going to say I have a lot of positives for the Broncos, but I think that it's too early to see them mesh with Peyton's system. Okay, remember, it's a new coach trying to revitalize a that didn't look really good, and I think it's too early. Like with just the amount of time that he's been there, to make the Broncos a nice cohesive gel. Plus, like I said, their receivers are hurt, And I think you're gonna Philip Dorsett is going to be like what WR3, and he just came in off of the wire when the Raiders dropped him.
Came in off the streets.
No, I think that's all fair. Coach, over to you quickly, and then we'll jump into your matchup against those Dolphins.
Yeah, I'm actually very intrigued by this matchup because I'm not exactly sure what to expect. In all honesty, from a lot of aspects, I think that we gotta wait and see how they utilize Josh Jacobs on this 1-year deal. But I do believe that it would behoove them to utilize the run game more so, especially if it's working, because again, you don't want Jimmy G throwing the ball 35, 40 times a game. You just don't. I think we have a good large sample size of that. The fact that he's much better when he's limited to about 20 to 25, maybe 30 throws a game if he's forced to do that. But I think that if you lean on the run game and you timely pass, I think the offense will flow. Curious to see what this defense is going to look like from the Raiders' perspective. Their front is going to be good. Want to see what Tyree Wilson's going to look like, especially if Chandler's not going to be available. I want to see him in his first game out. That should be interesting. Now that matchup, I'd beg to differ about going back to the original points about Devontae Adams versus Patrick Surtain. I do recall Devontae Adams beating badly Patrick Surtain for a game-winning touchdown last season. So I don't know if I lean to the idea that Surtain is going to exactly
right at me, right at me, baby.
And I do believe that Devontae Adams has gotten the better of that matchup, in all honesty. So I would say that if he's matched up against Surtain or not, I think Devontae has the edge there. Leaning towards that particular aspect. But overall, I'm just curious to see what Russell does with Peyton. I kind of keep Peyton in that regard of being a genius and mastermind play caller. So I'm sure he has some things tucked in his waistband. He's going to try to break out to kind of catch the Raiders off guard as well. So I think it's a really good matchup. I think it's going to be a better game than we all think. I really believe that it's going to be a competitive matchup. DJ Jones hasn't gone anywhere. From a run stopping perspective either. So you got to deal with that. You got to deal with the healthy pass rusher, and we give him crap. I know we give him crap, for being inconsistent, but he is there. Matter of fact, before I say that, is Brandon Browning, is he hurt still? Did I read that right?
Yeah, he's hurt.
Okay, so Browning is hurt. But okay.
Yeah, but Jonathan Cooper has stepped in, and
okay, that was going to be my next question.
That's just been like a seamless.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. So we're Randy Gregg on one other side, and Cooper and Clark, Frank Clark being a situational guy should help that situation. So it's a close matchup for me. Like I think that it's going to be a battle. It's going to be one of those games where you would think that on paper the Raiders might have it more buttoned up at the moment, but I think that because it's a divisional matchup, because it's a rivalry, I think there's going to be a close game. I really think that the Denver being at home is just added fuel to that as well. So I'm looking to see a really good game. If I had to, be a bet man, I would say maybe Raiders by 3. I like Carlson. He's a really good kicker. I think, kicking that mile high air, also got to factor that in too. You got to play in that mile high air first game. That's always a challenge. So I think it was a 3 points win to the Raiders slightly. But again, I wouldn't be surprised if the Broncos put up a real big fight.
Just to confirm, Browning is currently on the physically unable to perform.
Okay.
Just to as a point of order, if you will.
Right.
But yes, and we also have a few other pass rushers who have stepped in. We'll just say specifically at the outside linebacker position. Obviously, you have Thomas Nkoum, who's a undrafted free agent who really looked rather good, and Nick Bonito, who's in his second year, appeared to have taken some of those.
He needs to take a step. Yeah, he definitely needs to take a step.
He took a little bit of that step forward. It seemed in the preseason. So if that continues and looks the same way on game day, then there's definitely a pretty well-rounded outside linebacker room for the Denver Broncos from an outside pass rushing perspective. The other comment that I do want to just bring up is this one here from Raiders 07. Coach basically all but alluded to it, which is DJ Jones is certainly going to be that guy. Has
in the interior, in the interior, definitely.
Yeah, he's got a reputation. Now, if you bounce out to the outside, then you're starting to get into Alex Singleton. Then you're starting to get into Drew Sanders and Josie Jewell territory. And I do expect a guy that, again, as a Raiders fan, you're probably not going to see or don't know as well. Drew Sanders is a guy to look out for. He wears number 41. He looks like a mountain on the field. He's 6'5" and 233 pounds. He is lightning fast, sideline to sideline, and has made some rather good plays in preseason, including run stops.
That's one of Coach Davis' sleepers there, Drew Sanders.
Yeah, and I'd say you did well selecting him as one of those guys.
They got Riley Moss too, don't they?
Yeah,
that's my guy too. That's my guy too. He's on my list of cornerbacks. He had a core muscle injury in the preseason, so I'm not sure how much he's going to play just yet. But I'm looking for him to take steps once he get on the field.
I expect so too, and I think they're keeping his health on the down low. I'm pretty sure he's back to full health. But anyways, guys, we're going to throw over to the Dolphins game, Coach, to get some feedback from you on those Dolphins. And go from there. We're going to let Coach break down what our 3-point stance guest has to say. This is Big E, not to be confused with Big E Bronco.
Big E Dolphin. His cousin, Big E Dolphin.
Yeah, this is Big E Dolphins. You can catch him over there on the Dolphins. Let's go ahead and see what he has to say about what his team needs to do to beat your Los Angeles Chargers.
Hi, my name is Ian Berger. I am a fan and podcaster for the Miami Dolphins. You can find me on Twitter, now known as X, as Ian693. And you can find me on podcasts at dolphinstalk.com. So what are the 3 things that the Miami Dolphins need to do in order to beat the Los Angeles Chargers this coming weekend? Well, first and foremost, they have to establish the run. Last season we saw Tua Tagovailoa and Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle really take over the offense, but you didn't see a lot from the run game. When the Miami Dolphins lost to the Chargers last season, again, they could not establish anything on the ground. So for them to be successful this coming weekend, they will need to establish the run game with a little bit of Raheem Mostert and a couple of the other guys in the backfield. Second thing is Justin Herbert. He has a strong arm. We all know it. The Miami Dolphins defense, who now have a new defensive coordinator with Vic Fangio, they need to control Justin Herbert's game and prevent him from all of the big plays that he is known to have. If they can do that, then they will force the Chargers to a run game only type offense. And that takes me to my third item that they need to do. They need to control Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler is not only a strong runner, but he also likes to catch the ball from the backfield. So if they can control Justin Herbert and prevent him from having those long passes, if they can contain Austin Eckler from the backfield, then this is going to be a long day for the Los Angeles Chargers. That's all from South Florida. Thanks for watching.
That was short and sweet.
That's how you do it in 305, baby.
Yeah, they got things to do, huh? It's hot outside. It's hot outside. I understand. I mean, good breakdown. Definitely good breakdown. All valid points. You know, it's not one of those, I guess you can say, lack of good-hearted argument type of breakdowns some people give.
Yes.
So, yeah, I mean, especially the first 2 points. I think he's asking a lot in totality to do all those things right in order to win. But I mean, yeah, if they establish the run, I think it'll be a much tighter game from our perspective. I think that's the most glaring and most obvious correction that we need to make is being better against the run. Getting guys like Eric Kendricks and getting more size up front, will lean to that. But again, it's a combination of coaching, scheme, alignment, and just play calling and personnel executing that play calling is going to ultimately get that done in short order. And again, if we're talking about their defense and Fangio being the mastermind of sorts over there, is definitely something to be cognizant of. I mean, because Fangio is he's that guy. Let's be honest, he's that guy. I'm not going to sit here and listen. Charger fan, don't Charger fan. I cut my teeth on defense, and if I got it in the nose defense, he gets my tip of the hat. So again, I'm going to say that definitely it's not going to be a cakewalk. Even without Jalen Ramsey and things of that nature being out there to help their secondary. But overall, I'm kind of curious to see what they're doing with Christian Wilkinson. I know they got a big contract dispute going on with him. Is he going to be, mentally focused for the game and things of that nature? There's been a lot of reports that, going back and forth with that because they're their best interior D-lineman, excuse me. So, all that being said, I think that, he has definitely valid points. And if he can execute all those, they definitely have a good chance to win. Can they do it? I doubt it. To be quite honest with you, I think that maybe to run the ball. We can't be stopped up front, but stopping Justin Herbert and stopping Austin Eckler along with everybody else that's a tall order. Too. Right, that's a tall order. It's a tall order. We got a healthy pass rush, healthy and good quality depth pass rush coming into the game. On top of the fact that I think we've had probably the best weaponry we've had in quite some time. So and I think that the I guess you can say the ace in the hole that is going to people might not be ready for early on. I think that Kellen Moore's going to put emphasis on the run early on in this game. I really do that. I do believe that. They kept 4 running backs for a reason. They kept 4 tight ends for a reason. So I think that he's going to test that. Maybe. He's going to test that run defense early and often, and get it real exotic with his run schemes, and get Austin Eckler and Josh Kelly, hopefully up to the second level and get some good yardage early, and kind of keep them on their heels. And then that's going to bust open the play action game, for them, and we can be able to take those shots down the field with Mike and Quentin and Darius Davis and those guys. So I'm looking for it to be a really competitive game. I think we got a low key, at least on Twitter, we have a little bit of a rivalry with Dolphins fans when it comes down to the whole Tua versus Herbert debate, right? It's not a debate to me, but they love to debate it. It's Dolphins fans.
Armstead playing?
Who?
Armstead, the Dolphins left tackle.
That's a good question. That's a good question. If he does not play, it might be a field day from a pass rush perspective. I know he would be in and out of the lineup, but I hadn't heard anything to the idea that he definitely won't play. I know they shifted around the interior O-line. I did hear that.
Last I heard, it was him saying he's like, it's my goal to play week 1. But I mean,
right, whatever that means.
I don't know. Yeah,
but whatever that means. But they did shift around the interior O-line. I think Isaiah Wynn and Eichenberg and those guys are kind of shuffled in the interior, but I think their tackles haven't changed for the most part. So, I mean, overall, I believe that again, they got a good team. I think that with Tua being healthy, what's that?
He didn't practice today.
Oh, well, that's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. So if they got to go their backup left tackle or move Isaiah Wynn out. Yeah, it could be a long day for Tua in that pass rush, but yeah, I think that overall, I think the biggest things for us is that I think that that wild card of us establishing the run and they're kind of expecting us to be a pass heavy type of offense is going to be a monkey wrench that they may not be ready for, especially if we're successful with it early. And I think even if we don't, I think Kellen Moore will still stick to it just to keep you honest. And then what we do on defense. J.C. Jackson is going to play this week. I was very happy to hear about that today. It's a guarantee. He said he doesn't have any limitations in his knee. He's 100% to go. Just praying that they didn't rush him back too early, but he feels confident, and so does the training staff. So he's going to be cornerback 1, going up against Tyreek and Jalen Waddle, depending on who matches the board inside. Asante and Jasir Taylor and Mike Davis, rounding up the band in the secondary. So, I mean, from a pass perspective, linebacking play, I think that, and clearly our safety play, yeah, I'm very confident in what our defenses can do against the pass. It is whether or not we can button up the run. I think that's the only thing that we really believe that we need to prove that we can do in order to be a better defense. Because I think that Brandon Staley and the rest of the defense understand that being 28th in the league in defense and that's his side of the ball is not going to get it done. And I think he might be coaching for his job if we don't do better on defense. So I think him and our defense coordinator Ansley are going to do their best to put their best foot forward from a defense perspective and start keep the points off the board. Keep the points off the board, keep the offense on the field, and we will, just by natural order with our talent, score more points. So I think that's what it all boils down to. But I'm looking for
Miami
another
has
competitive
Eli
game.
Apple out there, so that's
Right.
good.
They say that's barbecue chicken. Or burnt apple is what they call it.
Crisp
Apple crisp. Right. So, yeah, I mean, I like Cam Smith and I like Xavier Howard, but I think that third corner, whoever has to match up against our third receiver, is going to have trouble. Eli Apple, whoever that is. So yeah, it should be an interesting game. I think it's going to be competitive early, but I like the fact that we're at home this week. Stay at home, stay in your own bed, and get off to an early start because our schedule isn't easy. We got the third strongest strength of schedule out in the whole entire league. So we can't give away games. So I think that if we have a balanced offense and we stop the run, I'm pretty confident we win the game.
That's the Chiefs' approach too.
It is.
Sorry, I was on mute. Considering that, like I said, my NBC is off. What other broadcast channels is it on now? Because Smug was saying Peacock.
Yeah,
is it on
Peacock?
It's NBC, so I would imagine it's Peacock.
Yeah, and it's a network televised game.
Yeah,
the Peacock free version. All you got to do is download the app, and then you'll be able to get the game.
Boom.
Okay, well, I might do that, but it's not going to be on because somebody was saying. Big Schmuck was saying Amazon Prime.
No, the Amazon Prime is not till I think next week.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
This is NBC.
Yeah, the opening week is NBC.
Okay, well then, I'm gonna have to hopefully do like a quick Peacock download, maybe for like try out Peacock for 7 days free, and I'm like,
it's free.
They have a free version and a paid version. They have two versions.
Yeah.
Okay.
You can get it.
Then I might have to because I'll be doing my show. Yeah, I'll be doing my show, so I'll have to. I'll be watching on my phone.
Yeah, just go to peacock.com on your computer, Cap. You should get it.
Well, Rich, if you'll let me jump in real quick,
fire away. Yeah, fire away, T3.
I'll go ahead and talk about the game real quick. Chargers and Dolphins, the line on this is 51 points. I definitely think it's going to be over on that. This is going to be an offensive shootout. I think the only way that the Dolphins can stay in this game is if they keep throwing the ball and keep moving it down the field to try to keep up with the Chargers offensively. The game is in Los Angeles. It doesn't mean there'll be a ton of Chargers fans there, but it also doesn't mean there's going to be a ton of Dolphins fans there, in my opinion. So Justin Herbert is the highest paid guy. He's the man now. Austin Eckler, I think, has something to prove. He's got a monkey on his back. I think he's going to come out strong. You have a healthy Chargers defense, which you haven't had in a while. Plus, they're coming in the game a little pissed off after what happened in that playoff game against Jacksonville. I think you're going to see an extremely motivated Chargers team. I think they're going to run up the points. It's going to be at least a 10-point victory, in my opinion. I just don't think that the Dolphins have enough firepower to keep up with them, and that the Chargers will have everything in place on both sides of the ball to be able to come up with a victory.
Yeah, I would kind of echo what Tom's saying. My biggest thing with Miami is, at least in terms of how they match up with the Chargers, I think it's like the ideal opponent because, the Chargers' kryptonite for recent years has been stopping the run, whereas I have absolutely no faith in Miami's rushing attack. Mostert's not very healthy. Wilson's on the IR, and Devon. He just came back. I mean, even Big E said it. Like I put in our private chat, he couldn't even say that with confidence. He's like, we'd have seen Mostert and some of those other guys to. He doesn't even know who it is. So
when your guy comes out and says Mostert, maybe, then that's the problem.
And then I think if you kind of factor those two things in, it boils into what Tom said. It's kind of like a shootout, and I would take Herbert over Tua in that situation, coming down to having to win with an arm. I mean, I'm not saying Tua's a bad passer. I mean, he's certainly a talented quarterback, but I think when it comes down to, having to probably get into deeper passing concepts and move the ball down the field at a more aggressive rate, I would give that edge to Herbert and the Chargers offense. So I kind of think that's what, I mean, I picked the Chargers to win. They won last year. And from what I recall, I think Tua was pretty banged up at that point, but it seemed like like they had pretty decent control of the game. So, I kind of tend to think we'll see a similar outcome in this one, just probably a little bit higher score. So I think that one was like 21-17 or something like that.
Yeah, holistically, we were both banged up. We were missing guys, and so were they. Fully healthy on both sides. Sans, Jalen Ramsey, obviously. Yeah, I think it's going to be a really good game. I'm really interested to see how our tackles hold up. Not really worried about Rashad Slater, but how Trey Pipkins does against Bradley Chubb and Jalen Phillips and how they deploy them. Should be interesting. But yeah, I think the catalyst to this is going to be that Kellen Moore emphasizing the run. I think he's going to emphasize the run more so than we have in the past, and keep them on, backed up and on their heels, and and kind of if they have to commit more bodies to it, then that's when we take shots downfield.
And that's kind of the other, like I said, with the Raiders Broncos game, right? Like they both kind of, have question marks about kind of their identity and scheme. And I'd say the Chargers do too. I mean, we watched preseason and we know how Kellen Moore operates, but I think you're going to see a much more aggressive Chargers offense than we've seen in the past couple of years. And,
I definitely agree with that.
I mean, he's going to use Eckler. And probably Kelly, like similar to the way he used Zeke and Pollard. And so it's going to be a totally different offensive landscape in terms of what the Chargers have looked like on that side of the ball.
My only thing that I would push back on kind of what I've heard from the group, but bolster a little bit more what Coach is saying, and this I don't think bodes well for Herbert all that well, unfortunately, is you are going against Fangio. The one thing that Alex, all too well as a Chiefs fan, you typically put up massive numbers as a Chiefs fan throughout the stretch. And the one team that you were often held into very low point totals was against the Broncos when he was our head coach. Like that dude,
There's a reason he was a consultant with the Eagles, like he is a defensive guru. So
that he is.
Yeah, he is that guy. And I think the one thing to keep in mind is that, Coach, if you shift focus away from what they might expect, which is more of a throw it all over the field sort of thing, then I think that, and you move towards the run, I think that will throw a bit of a wrench in the defensive game plan, would potentially give you guys a leg up and probably get you, further ahead. If you start to pull down the gun show and try to sling it all over the field, I actually think Fangio is going to do a pretty darn good job of, pardon the pun, locking you down. And that's what he's known for.
Pardon the pun. Yeah. That was good. That was a good one.
Guys, let me jump in real quick and say it's been a pleasure jumping in with you all. My work schedule is going to change a little bit, so I'll be working in the evenings for the next couple of weeks. So I will jump back in with you all when I can. But I appreciate everybody who's jumped in and listening, and I wish you all success during the year, despite the fact that we're all rivals. Hope that we all have a healthy and successful year all the way around. So with that, I will bid you all adieu and say farewell until later.
I agree. I mean, I don't think there's a tremendous amount else to say about the games unless Captain has something to say about the Dolphins. That is, he's not on mute.
Yeah, no, I took off mute. I tell you what, all of the games this weekend for all of the AFC West teams are going to be entertaining. I don't see any blowouts. I think everybody's going to be playing tight games, and as Tom said, it'll be entertaining this year. And like I said, you will know what your team is going to be like by October 1st. You'll have a feel for how well your team will be doing by October 1st. But having said that, gentlemen, I got a punch as well. always a pleasure. I won't have to duck out next week, but I go on an NFL Nation Live right now. Pop over to my YouTube channel for that. And then also the Real Gibbons, a.k.a. Smug and Coach, they got their show. So watch me and watch them as well. Take care, everybody, and thanks again for having me on. Except for you, Biggie Bronco. You're a butthole. No, I'm just kidding. But yeah,
he's this year's Hefe KC.
Yeah.
That he is. That he is.
Yeah, he's this year's FAKC. Good night, everybody. Take care.
Pick up.
So, ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it for the show today. On Coach's channel, directly after this show, is the Lightning Fast Fantasy podcast. Over on Captain's channel, you're going to see the NFL Nation Live podcast. So obviously the night of podcast is not quite over yet for our group here. And next week, we will have a whole lot to talk about. We will have a much better idea in terms of what our offenses and defenses are actually going to look like, because we will have actually seen a real game, not preseason games.
Right. How about that?
And I know
we got real live football now.
Yeah, exactly.
Finally.
It's time.
And moreover, you will know if these two gentlemen who are with me today were able to extrapolate preseason and translate players' play and in turn those fantasy points into wins or losses in your and their various leagues.
That's right.
But anyways, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to sign off for this evening now, and where the West Side is, in fact, the best side. Peace!
Even when you feel low, you can still go. Even when you feel slow, you can still go. Even when there's no hope, you can still go. I never answer to no, man, I still go. Go, 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 go. Hustle hard, hustle every single day. I'll be making moves till I'm buried in my